Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Kim Guillory and I am your host. And I have a very special guest today, Debbie Sassen. She's going to be talking about investing for entrepreneurs, whether you have. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Kim Guillory. I'm your host. Oh my gosh. I have a very special guest today. Why? Debbie Sassen. Starting over, take two. Hello and welcome back to the show. My name is Kim Guillory. I am your host, and my guest today is Debbie. It's Debbie Sassen, right? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, yes.
Debbie and I have been working together right at a year, and I really love what she does. And I thought what she could bring so much value to the show, to my audience, and also we could take the opportunity to educate. And so I invited her to come on, and she's gonna run this show, just so you know. So for those who have been listening to the podcast and following along, thank you for your continued support. For those who are new to me or to Debbie, we're going to give you the opportunity to ask questions, to discuss anything that comes up for you during the show that you want more information about, or maybe you just want to get some clarity on some of the terms that she uses, or no, where do I start, or how do I even get the money to start? We're going to be able to answer all of those questions for you at the end of the show, but I'm going to ask you to just refrain from anything as we're moving through, as we're getting the actual interview under, because it's basically just going to be her delivering, and then we're going to bring you guys on. Does that sound fair? Debbie, does it sound good to you?
That sounds good to me. Yep.
So what I love about what Debbie's doing is you can start with $1,000. And she's not just speaking, she's not just being an online guru. She's actually someone who has done it, who has done extremely well with money from her own experience. She's also an entrepreneur, and she has a passion for helping Jewish business owners and entrepreneurs reach their potential in profitability, like sustainability, profitability. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't like to talk about. I am not Jewish, but in my world, I know it's an issue. And I think in all worlds, it's this money thing. Like, people are afraid to talk about it. And my start as an adult was at the welfare office, living on the government. And so I just want to say that those people who were like, money won't make you happy. Well, let me tell you, being poor did not make me happy. So I'm going to segue onto Debbie. So Debbie, you want to just introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about where you're coming from, your background, how all of this got started. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and let you take the show.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Let me just make sure my spotlighted, pinned. I'll pin myself, at least I see myself then. All right. I'm so happy that you're all here. I do have I have a slide presentation, and then I love questions. I like an active chat, so don't restrain yourselves. The chat will probably run. I'll get back to it. I'll answer all the questions. And if we don't have time, we will come back and you'll be in touch with me or whatever. My start, I was the kid who loved money from a young age. I had the lemonade stand. I did babysitting. I cleaned houses. I wanted to go to music camp when I was 13, and my dad and mom had just gotten a divorce, and then my dad was made redundant by his ex-employer, who was also his ex-father-in-law, my grandfather. So I wanted to go to music camp. There was no money, and I cleaned houses. I cleaned toilets to send myself to music camp. And so making money and having that freedom that having money gives you. And I love what Kim says, being poor doesn't make you happy. Listen, a lot of it is your mindset, but not being able to afford basics. And music camp is obviously not a basic. We had basics, we had food, we had a roof over our head, but so many of us want and desire more than the basics. And there's nothing really wrong with that. It does help us to have a slightly higher standard of living. If you want luxury, that's also good. We're not judging anybody for their needs, wants, and desires. But I learned early on that when you have money, you have choices. And then it was like a natural segue. From college, I went and I started working on Wall Street. I came from LA, from Los Angeles, where I grew up, and I'd never really heard of Wall Street. I heard of Hollywood. I knew in Hollywood you could make money, but I didn't know really anything about Wall Street. But I had a boyfriend in college who said, you should be an investment banker. So that's what I did. I became an investment banker and I worked on a trading floor and I thought that I knew about money. I wasn't paying attention to my money. My employer put money in a 401k. I was not paying attention to it. Like, even though I was working on a trading floor and I understood some financial jargon, like, I didn't get it. Like, from the hundreds of millions of dollars that and with my team, we were moving around the world in derivative products, like, how it came back to like little old me and my family, totally ignored. But I thought I was a hot shot. I thought I knew what I was doing, and I made a what I would call my big money mistake where I invested in something that I never should have invested in. I didn't understand what I was doing, and I lost $50,000. And the rest is history. That's how I ended up here. And I think so many of us, especially as entrepreneurs, we take what we learned and we often turn that into a business. So I was working when I moved to Israel, I've been here for 37 years. I worked at the central bank also investing and being in charge. I was one of the managers of the portfolio here of our foreign currency reserves portfolio. It was $6 billion at the time that I left. It's grown into way bigger than that now. And but my own investments were really I don't want to say they were like a complete disaster, a complete mess. My husband and I are naturally spenders more than savers. I mean, we don't live like, really, really minimalistic. We take trips, we take vacations. Thank God, we have a very large family. We have 8 children, 20 grandchildren. And so we definitely don't live on bread and water. Money is a tool that brings us a lot of joy, happiness with our family, and we also give very generously to, as we say in Hebrew, tzedakah, to charity, and we donate at least a tenth of our income to, charitable causes every single year. So that's kind of my background. I'm going to share a short presentation, because I think some of the background that I come to investing with, I think is important. I don't go into any terms in this presentation, like what's a stock, what's a bond. I think those are really important. And also, when I left my job at the Bank of Israel, I went into financial planning. I would sit with people and they would be like, it was like deer in the headlights when I would start talking with them about investing. So that's also where my passion came from, because just regular civilians, as I call them, like didn't get the terminology. And that's where I came in. And that's why you'll see soon, I'm going to share with you my book that I wrote. It's available on Amazon. But yeah, let's just talk about why now. Like, why are we having this conversation? So many of us lack role models, right? Our parents didn't talk to us around money. Money was a taboo topic. Everything else but money. We could talk religion, we could talk politics, we could talk about our neighbors, we could talk about whatever, but like, God forbid you should talk about money. It's just like, that's just something we don't touch. And so many of our parents didn't model for us, like, what should we do with our money? When my grandmother passed away, I got as an inheritance $5,000. And I asked my dad, what should I do with it? He's like, well, go down to the bank and talk to them. So even that, when I wanted to have that conversation, he didn't have the vocabulary or even the comfort to talk about it. As women in particular, but not necessarily, we cede control of the finances to our partners. So many of the women I work with men and women, but predominantly women. And money is a man's world. Even for women who are the entrepreneurs, they're the breadwinners, they're making like more money than the men in the house. In the Jewish world, so many of the people in my Orthodox Jewish world where the man is learning, he's in yeshiva, he's in kollel, and the wife is the one who's earning all the money. For some reason, it's still the man's world, the man's responsibility. And even my clients where, they're both partners were both, the mother or father were working, it still has this feeling about it that money is a man's world. And then we lack knowledge. We don't understand investment options. We hear about real estate. We hear about stocks. Stocks are scary. They're risky. Oh my gosh, I could lose my shirt. And this financial jargon, it's like it's a language. It's like Chinese, and it's a huge brick wall to investing in the markets. And so real estate, and I know Kim and I have talked about real estate, and she loves real estate. I love real estate, but we're going to talk about stocks and bonds because you can get started with $1,000. It's hard to buy real estate for $1,000. But not understanding just basic terminology. And I will say in 2025, like we got Chat GPT, guys. I did not have Chat GPT when I was starting, but that is a huge, huge advantage and way to overcome barriers that you have. So if you don't understand the jargon, you can just ask your buddy Chat or Claude, like, tell me what this means. And that's really, really like gets you going so fast. But we lack confidence, so we just don't move. And then, as I said, we don't talk about money, but putting your money to work for you makes sense and sense. So, what about you? Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. You don't understand the jargon we talked about. You want to start investing. You heard you're supposed to have money for a rainy day, but you don't know how to get started. You think you need a big chunk of change to start. You might, especially as an entrepreneur, you've got fluctuating income. One month it's 10,000, one month it's 50,000, one month you don't make anything. I've worked with folks in commercial real estate where they would make a big deal every year and a half, and that's when they would get their big payout. And so they're like, I can't plan for anything. I don't have the same salary coming in every month, right? Or you don't know if there's going to be enough. And now we're almost at, the summer and there's vacations and summer camp for the kids. You're like, how am I supposed to plan and put money away? And then, of course, we're afraid of making mistakes. There's the shame and the loss. And, we can somehow make mistakes in other areas of our life. But money, and, if you've been around me for a while, my mantra is our brain goes like really crazy around money because it goes into the spiral. No money, no food, I'm going to die. Like that's basically the path. No money, no food, I'm going to die. So we feel so much fear around making mistakes with our investments. And also, if we make them, for some reason, we feel like we should have known better, right? And so we just feel so much shame. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book and I talk openly about my $50,000 loss because I want to unshame money mistakes. People who, get into debt, and I'll share with you in a minute my podcast, but some of my earliest episodes that I recorded even like 3 years ago were people that had huge, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And it was really geared to unshame that idea that there's something wrong with debt, or people who've had medical issues, they've gone into debt. Like we make such a big deal out of money mistakes. So more understanding, right, is really important. And, you might lack the time to be managing your money, but I want to, give you the idea that just 5 to 10 minutes a day consistently, it's like anything. If you want to build muscle, you want to work out, take care of your health, like little steps add up to big differences over time. Okay, so here's a little bit about me. Like this is some of the stuff that I do around money, my podcast, the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast. Here's my book available on Amazon. I have a course, Investing Made Simple, and you're going to hear about these things very soon. I run a program, Wired for Wealth. I am all about money. And here's me hiking. I'm also a hiker. So that's me at the top of Half Dome in Yosemite. I am, as much as I love money and Wall Street and all that stuff, I'm a real earth mama, nature girl, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about investing. But before we get there, this is what I want you to do because I really want to encourage you to get out there and let all of your friends know that money is not a taboo topic. I want you all to go and share the fact that we're here today and we are talking about money and we're going to have some giveaways. So if you screenshot that you're here and you go and you share it on your social media and you tag me on Facebook, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn, first of all, everybody who shares it and tags me that you're here, you guys are going to get a special session, a Q&A session with me where we're going to talk specifically about investments. We're going to spend a fireside chat together where we can really go deep. And also from anybody who shares on their social media and tags me, I'm going to do a giveaway with my book. And also, if you remember, my lovely investing course over there. Okay, there's going to be a winner, maybe two if you're lucky, for this Investing Made Simple course. And this is on my website. available for $297. So it's a really good value. So go screenshot it, share it, and let all your people know. And maybe they can even come and they can join us, debbiesassen.com/webinar. They can still get in now before we finish. So go and share it. I can't wait to have all these people here on a giveaway. All right, so let's just talk about investing because people mix up saving and investing. So this is a little bit of a geeky term, but it's important that I got a little geeky here. So investing is the committing of resources to an endeavor or thing with an expectation of a positive return. I know that sounds a little geeky, right? Committing of resources. You commit money to an endeavor or a thing. So you could commit it to your business. You can commit it to stocks. You can commit it to real estate. You can commit it to cryptocurrency, right? You're going to take money and you're going to put it in something and you're going to expect that after a period of time, it's going to give you money babies. You're going to have a positive return on those resources, on that money that you put away for the future. Okay, so here it is in words. You commit money to financial assets. Again, that could be real estate, that could be stocks, could be bonds, it could be crypto, it could be diamonds, gold, right? Right. There's also, all the commodities you talk about, oil, wheat, but there's an asset, right? And you expect that your money is going to grow over time. There is an element of risk, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Do I know if the price of gold is going to double? Do I know if it's going to drop? We've just had a huge, like over the last 6 months or so, the price of gold has gone really, really high. Crypto, if you followed it for like the last, 5, 10 years, I don't follow crypto, but it's been all over the place. It's been high, it's been low, it's been high, right? But we don't know. And what's risky about it is really the volatility, the fluctuation in the price of this financial asset during short periods of time. And if it is a solid financial asset, like a property, like stocks, and we can talk about why stocks are really not risky if you have a 10 to 20 year time horizon, like they're really, really not. Over long periods of time, the US stock market, we have over 100 years of data, has grown on average 10 to 11% per year. But that again is on average. You can have a year when it's up 20%. You can have a year when it's down 20%. You can have a year when it's up 40%. So in short periods of time, there can be huge fluctuations, but over long periods of time, the risk really, really does. I don't want to say go to zero because it's not zero, but over time, the risk gets less and less. So investing is going to be long term. If you know that you need money in a year from now or 2 years from now, like we get the idea that if I invest in a property, it would be really hard to get it out. Or I might, buy a house and I would have to sell it and I might sell it at a loss or I won't find a buyer. I'll have to really, really drop the price. Like that makes sense to us. But in terms of, the wanting to have a long-term horizon with stocks, because again, prices could go down, markets go up and markets go down. So you really have to go into investing with a different mindset from savings. Savings is where you keep your money when you want it safe. You know your kids are going to go to college next year and you need to put money into their college fund. You have money in savings. If they're 4 years old, then you can put it into an investment account like a 529 or something like that where you're investing for the future. If you have children that are getting close to marriageable age, right? Like you don't want to have money that is going to be fluctuating when you want to be making a wedding. So you have to understand what your needs are, what you want to do with the money, and does it make sense for your money to be invested or does it make sense for your money to be in savings? But people tend to like mix up those terminologies when they're having regular conversations. I'm saving for the future. Well, if your future is in 15 years from now, you should be investing for the future, not saving for the future. Because if you keep your money in safe savings in the bank account, you're just going to earn like, I don't know, maybe you get 2, 3, maybe 4%, but you could be getting 10%, 11% on average, for example, in the stock market. So that's what that's what investing is. So you could just tell me in the chat box who already has some investments, who already understands a little bit about investing, right? Just let me know. And if you don't have social media, I understand. I apologize. That's just the way we share something. That's it is what it is.
Debbie, let's pause here for a moment because I think this is an important, kind of segue into moving forward. Is that okay? Do you prefer to go all the way through it or do you prefer to stop and
No, no, go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think what you just said is really important. And do you have a specific school of thought? So, there's different people, different investors, different money guys or gurus all have, their own 4 steps or 3 steps. I'd like to hear yours. And so I'm curious for those who are listening on the process of investing, like when to invest in yourself, when to invest in your business, when do you know it's time to start investing versus savings? Do you have a school of thought just from your own life specifically that you'd like to share? Guys, do you want to hear that? Was that something that would interest you? I get that question a lot from clients. It's like not knowing when, because they're investing in themselves and they're trying to start a business and they're like, I need to do Facebook. When do I invest in me? Yeah, they're saying yes. So I
Yeah,
don't know
so
about you
okay, so
too.
that's a really, really good question. So let me just right now, let me stop sharing the screen because it just makes sense for me to look at everybody rather than, seeing my cute little picture of a little thing. So listen, guys, we have to be realistic. Life happens, right? There are always going to be unexpected things. The most, like my dad calls them oopsies. Like oopsies are going to happen. Life happens. All of a sudden, your car is going to have a flat tire. Your kid is going to need like dental treatment. Your computer is going to fritz out on you. You need to have money in what you call a rainy day fund, an emergency fund, something like that. If you are an entrepreneur, because our income fluctuates, right? So the common wisdom is to have 12 months, like a full year, right, of how much you need to take care of your family in like a rainy day fund for things that are unexpected. Okay. Now, like that's a lot of money. Like if your family needs $50,000 for the year, $100,000 for the year, to have that much money parked in an emergency fund, like that's a lot of money. And I think it might be a little bit too conservative. I would be happy with half of that, but really at the very, very minimum, put $2,000 to $5,000 away in an emergency fund for those emergencies that you don't know what they are or when they are going to happen, but you just know that like the plumbing is going to let go on your house and you need to pay the plumber before the insurance company pays you back. So that's one kind of savings fund. Now there's another kind of savings fund for the things that you know are going to happen in the next year or two. Like if you know you're going to be taking a summer vacation, if you know your kids are going to you're going to send your kids to summer camp, if you know that in, January, like my husband and I know that our house insurance, our home insurance for all of the contents. We pay it every year in February, March, April, May. We do a 4-month payment plan every single year. Like that money, that's coming up. You should be having that money saved. So, for example, if you had, let's make it easy. If your home insurance was $1,200 a year, you should be budgeting $100 every single month into an account for fluctuating expenses, like they don't, or irregular expenses. They're not happening all the time, but you know full well that they're going to happen. We also know that, like, God willing, you're going to get to like 80, right? Like that's the average life expectancy, even more. And as medical technology, improves more and more, you might expect to get to 85. You might expect to get to 90. So you should really start investing as soon as possible. But that's why I wrote my book, The 1K Investor, because you can start with $100 a month. And really, over the long term, you can build a $500,000 in investments just by $100 a month. But people wait. They're like, no, but I need to do this first. I need to do this first. And before you know it, you're 55 years old and you don't have money in investments. So just like that you might be paying your home insurance or you might be paying your car insurance or something like that, like there's like I don't know, 80-90% chance you're going to get to 80. Right? So like don't sweep it under the rug. Start now. And if you didn't start now, like or but if you haven't started yet, like start now. Like it's going to happen. And then you have to look at your income and you have to look at your expenses. And I think that one of the biggest problems that that entrepreneurs have is that they're not separating between their business and their personal expenses. So there's one big melting pot for all of their income. And so the money comes in. I was working with a client about like 6 months ago, and the money was coming into the business, and they were swiping the credit card to pay for therapy, to pay for this, that, like there, it was such a, like a stew of everything, like all mushed together. But you need to have a Chinese wall between your business and your personal life. You need to know how much it costs to run your personal life, because your business needs you to keep reinvesting in your business. Your business is going to need you not just to get a Zoom account, not just to pay for a Canva account, but to invest in other assets for your business, especially if you're a product business. And this is where business owners who have product-based businesses are different. And I think they're a little bit more like savvy, financially savvy than service-based business owners. A product-based business owner knows that they need inventory, right? They need to have like goods, and they need to have like, especially if you're a brick and mortar, you have a shop, you need to rent the space, renovate the space, turn on the water, the electricity, stack the shelves. You need to invest in your business before you've sold one item. Service-based business owners like, no, I have a Zoom account, I'm good, I don't need to invest in my business. And they really shoot themselves in the foot, and they like slow down their growth. But your business needs to have its own business account. You could, just like a product-based business owner can take a business loan to get going. If you got a service-based business, rather than taking all the money and like bringing it over to your personal life, I've recommended this to clients. Take a loan, put, let's say, $50,000 in your business bank account. Pay yourself a salary from that money every single month, so that you can like breathe, and your family's getting taken care of while you're building a business. And the other thing is that when it comes, Kim, yeah, you'll come in a second, but like we want to have it all in our personal life straight away. And I don't know if it was Suze Orman or if it was Dave Ramsey or if just whatever, but a lot of people have said in the financial world, like, you want to live like nobody else so that you could live like nobody else. Like, keep your personal expenses down, 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 down. Now, and I get, as a mom of eight, it is really hard. Eight kids, eight pair of shoes. Like, that's like no kid has only one pair of shoes. Like, maybe your 1-year-old, but like they want shoes, they want clothes, they want extracurricular activities, they want, but you've got to like squeeze your personal, like I told you, I went to clean houses because my dad was let go of his job and he was starting to build his business. He's like, sorry, kids. I remember the Hanukkah when he told us that, I got a turtleneck sweater. That was the only present that I got that year. Like, my parents modeled such sensible financial habits. They didn't say, okay, we'll figure it out, we're going to buy you guys the moon. And we were 5 kids, right? So I'm not talking about, someone who has like one child. I'm talking about, a pretty large family. And it was like family holdback. And I know it's hard. I know we live in the age of abundance, and I don't want to be dismissive of anybody's anything, but if you can live like nobody else for the first 3 to 5 years of your business will produce income like it, you're doing well, and then you're going to have so much more for the future. All right, Kim, what do you want to say?
Thank you. I was going, so I'm liking to take notes and then kind of break some of it down, because you talk, so this is your world, right? But I notice for some people, when we say things, they're like, wait, but they're not there yet. So my question was, and someone actually followed up with it in the chat, could you break that down in a formula? So, and I'm not sure, if these are new business owners or if they've been business owners for a while, but I'm going to assume that since this is for beginning investor entrepreneurs, we're just going to assume, just for you to give foundation. And then if they're a more, if they're more long-term, or what's the word I'm trying to say?
More
Or more
experienced, or
mature. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Then we can address that. But let's just, for the sake of getting this down and recorded, and if anyone's finding it, it can help anyone. Is how would you break down that formula to start? Like, how to get their first $1,000, to get that first 50,000, you know what I'm saying, or that first 20,000. Something simple that I'm sure you are doing naturally, but someone hasn't thought to do it because they're used to being an employee. They're used to getting a check in a different way. Because I see this with a lot of new coaches and service-based entrepreneurs, massage therapists. They literally take the amount of clients that they need to pay their core note. That's all they know. And I respect that, because I remember coming from that. So I'm curious, what would be your formula that you would for the person who's never put anything aside, not really thought about it, they're now like, okay, I'm taking this serious. What's a simple formula they could start with? How much, or is it a percentage, or um, like, what's your school of thought?
So the first thing is to know your numbers. How much does your family need?
Okay.
Okay, that would be number one. And then try to reduce it by 10%. And that might sound like a big number, but if you go through all the little expenses, right? If you go through a little at a time, right, and you take a little bit off of here and a little bit out, like you reduce your clothing expenditures, you reduce your maybe your car expenditures, you reduce your your vacation, you reduce your food expenses, right? Like try and like trim everything down, right? And then you have money coming in, and again, you take that money, start by putting aside $100 a month into an emergency account. And remember, you're going to have these fluctuating, expenses. You've got to know what those are because the money that's coming in needs to cover those. So you've got to take the money coming in and you have to allocate some of it to the future. Like give your $100 to put in your investing, $100 to put into your emergency account, and then take money and put it into the unexpected or irregular expenses, those ones that you know are going to happen. They're just like 6 months out. Because if you don't, then what happens is you go into a frenzy when all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, right? I have to like pay for my car insurance and like, where's the money? It's like, but you knew that was coming,
Well,
right? You knew
and
it was
I think
coming.
I remember this. I would put the money aside. They used to do a Christmas club back in the day when I had little kids. And so I would go to the bank. You would put $20 a week. You would just give them $20. They would basically hold the money for you until
Yeah.
October. So then
Hmm.
you had the however much to go and do your shopping. And that made sense. But here's what you just said is what I would do. Then something came due that I wasn't planning for, and I would take it from that investment account. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I'm
Or it's a
curious if
save, it's a
anyone
savings account, not an investment account.
that's
But
that's what I
yeah.
wanted you to break down because someone's saying, let's say I have 1,000 to start investing. Let's get to the point to where they actually have the 1,000. So you're saying if they put
Yep.
100 a month, they're going to have 1,200 by the end of the year, and then they put another 100 a month. So one's a savings, one's a investing. Now they have 2,400. So the 1,200 for emergency or whatever stays, but now they have 1,200. Where should they put that first 1,200?
Okay, so this is
Or
something that I
when?
break that I break that I break down in my book, and it's different depending on where you are in the world. I love stocks. Let me just give you a little bit of background around
Sure.
stocks, especially for those of us who are business owners. People freak out a little bit about stocks. I told you that over the long term, right, stocks are pretty safe. I don't want to say they are volatile in the short term, but if we look, but what is a stock? A stock is an ownership interest in a company. So if I own stock in Coca-Cola, I own part of Coca-Cola. That means, right, if I own stock in Apple, if I own, right, I am a partial owner of Apple. If I own stock in Amazon, I'm a partial owner of Amazon. I own stock in Citibank, I'm a partial owner. Over long periods of time, like the economy grows and the value of the stock increases. These companies become more valuable. That's us as entrepreneurs. The idea is that over time, your company grows, your income grows, and your company is more valuable. Your profit margins increase. So that's why, like, if you invest money in stocks and you don't even have to wait for the $1,200 if you have an investment account in the United States. Okay, so what I prefer is there are funds. A fund is like you can either have a mutual fund or an exchange traded fund. A fund is basically a collection. And I like to compare it to, you can go to the like Whole Foods and you can either buy your lettuce and your cucumbers and your tomatoes and your mushrooms and your peppers separately, or you can go and buy one of those little containers that has everything already in it. Your salad is already prepared for you. So a fund is like your salad, your investment portfolio already prepared for you. My personal love is the total US stock market, right? And I have an account at Fidelity and you can invest in iShares. It's a company. Now we're going to get really geeky, really into the weeds of investing. I don't really want to go here right now. Again, if you go out and you share this and we'll talk about it, we can go much deeper. But like I own, just by owning one share or like 100 shares of the total US stock market, I basically own little bits of like thousands of companies in the United States. I don't have to think. I don't have to think, oh, is IBM or Apple going to do better this year? Should I be investing in tech? Should I be investing in biotech? Should I be investing in real estate? Should I be investing in consumer goods? Right? Like I don't have to think about it. I don't have to spend any time. There is a computer algorithm that's running in the background that's all the time monitoring the markets and making sure that my little salad that's already pre-prepared pretty much mirrors what is happening in the total US stock market. So I can leave all of my worries or stock picking aside and I can take my energy, focus it on my family, focus it on my business, and making sure that I'm relaxing and not getting stressed out.
Okay.
So,
I like where this is, and what Debbie's offering is we're going to have her contact information, and she's offering to go down in that a little bit deeper for those who want to do a Q&A. But for today, we're going to do an overview because
yeah.
the first thing is you got to get the money. You got to put the money somewheres because
You
it,
got, well, you got to do the money and you got to get the terminology
and
because even
yes,
this, like, if we just stopped right now, like, people would be like, okay, Debbie, you just gave me a lot of jargon. I need to go home and digest that already because we've talked about stocks. We've talked about emergency funds. We've talked about irregular expenses and total US stock markets and ETFs. And you're like, oh my gosh, like my head is already like,
which is
so,
great because you know there are a lot of options. So
mhm.
that's good. And we also know that we want to choose something that's more low risk, but everything has a risk, like it or not, even though we say zero and near zero. So we can cover those. So I'm curious about coming back. So we know that that's going to be an option. We can go deeper. We're going to do a Q&A after this. Let's get back to the show with the part of so now that they are starting to put money aside, and some of these might already have money to go, they need
Yeah.
to book a call with you and then they can get some guidance or a conversation with you. But we're going to assume
Yeah.
that they want more money put aside. We're just going to
Okay.
start with that.
Yeah.
So
So Rivki, I'm going to just answer your question. Listen, I'm going to this is a shameless plug for my book. That being said, if anybody has ever looked at any financial books out there, or any books that or anybody in the money space, there is a woman. Her name is Barbara Stanley Houston. Barbara, she was formerly Barbara Stanley. She wrote the book Overcoming Under Earning, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, Secrets of Six-Figure Women. She has 7 books that she's written, and I led her book club for her like community at the end of April. She said to me, Debbie, I read 40 books on money. Yours is the best beginner investment book I've read. So, and those are real words. So, like, really, don't waste your time. I mean, that's not a waste of time. Like, God forbid, I have an entire shelf up there with like books and books, like Larry Swedroe, the only investment book you'll ever need. But my book is really kindergarten. So many of these books already expect you to start out with a certain level of understanding, but mine really goes basic, basic, basic. And then once you go basic, you've got the foundations and you can like jump ahead. So thank you so much, Kim, for sharing the link. So like really, it'll take you like 3 hours to read. I wrote it specifically in bigger font so that it would be less off-putting. Okay. Yeah. So get a hard copy because Kindle, I don't know, my Kindle is filled with a lot of things that I never touched.
is there
My Kindle, my
anything
Kindle is very smart.
for the sake of this interview? What do you love most about the book? Like, what is like 2 gems that are in the book that no one else is talking about?
The just the real basics. Like it's so basic. And that's what I really love about it is that I really like I slowed down the conversation for like all the things that I really missed when I was like supposedly this hot shot on Wall Street and I missed it. And I
Mhm.
wasn't investing my 401k. I got it, I thought I was earning money because it was in safe savings. It was in this kind of savings account, 5% interest. I was like, wow, that's a good deal. But you don't understand the cost over time of keeping something in a 5% interest account that sounds good. So I'm going to give you a rule called the rule of 72. The rule of 72 says you take the number 72, you divide it by the expected return on your investment. Okay, so if your investments are in the stock market and you expect 10% return, 72 divided by 10 is 7.2, which means that you would expect your money to double itself in 7.2 years. Okay, so I put $100,000 in the stock market. I would expect that in 7.2 years, I'm going to have $200,000 if I just put the money in and walked away and went to the beach.
Everybody got that?
You got to do the beach part. If you don't do the beach part, it doesn't work. No, but then you're like, oh, I found this high yield savings account. Like today you could go and you can do a search online, high yield savings account, 4%. And you're like, oh my gosh, 4%. That sounds amazing. It's going to take you 18 years to double your money, which means you can have in 7.2 years, you can have 100,000 to 200,000 and another double your money. You get $400,000 and you're only up to 14.4 years. But at 4%, because you're like, oh, this high yield savings account, and you're like in 18 years from now, you haven't even gotten up to like, the money that you could have already had in the stock market. And if you really don't need your money for 20 years, like you really, really are holding yourself back. You're handicapping yourself. Like even now, like there's a thought that, listen, as I get closer to retirement, I should invest less in the stock market. I'm going to be 62, God willing, in a month. I have like 80% of my money in stocks because I'm like, I want my money when I'm 80. I want my money when I'm 90, and I want it to keep growing. I just like, that's really, I think that's way riskier. I had a client when I was working in financial planning. She came to me 10 years after her mother passed away with her money in cash. And she
10,
missed, huh? It was in
10,
cash. It was in cash.
10, 10 in cash.
10 years because she was so afraid of
Right.
making a mistake. She was so like, it was like she had this like block around money. And I don't remember the dates anymore, but there was a huge financial crisis in 2008 and the markets went down. But in March 2009, it hit rock bottom and then boom, it's been basically going up since then. Yes, there's been fluctuations, but she missed that entire increase in the markets.
What do you think she lost in 10 years if she would have had that invested
Well, if you put
on
it in,
average?
if I put it into the rule of 72, she could have doubled her money. Like so maybe we wouldn't have put it all in stocks, but we would have looked at her age and her family and other income that they're having. Because it's not just like what you're putting it in, but we have to look at the other sources of money that you have. We have to look about risk. We have to look at about your health situation. Like there's so many different factors that go into, creating your financial portfolio. Are you getting Social Security? Do you have a retirement fund? Like what other financial assets you have? So I don't like, first of all, I have to be very, very clear is that I let my investment license retire. So I'm not a registered financial advisor anymore. So all of this is my personal opinion. Okay. That we have to make sure that that's clear. I do have a very long history of working on Wall Street. I was a registered investment advisor for a while, but I'm not now. So this is all my personal opinion. Nobody should sue me, please. Um, I'm telling you what I do. But there are a lot
Okay.
of financial bloggers out there that are doing the same thing, by the way. So,
I want to move. I want to
yeah,
move
let's move
from
on.
this.
Let's just go back because there's like this is such a deep conversation.
It is.
Such a deep conversation.
So while we're in this part, so what I'm hearing you say this, and this podcast is called More Than Mindset. And this is exactly what we're discussing right now, which is they have to have the mindset. Like you're saying with the lady, her mindset was broken and blocked. So,
Yep.
how important is the mindset? I know you have this wired for wealth, and really it is about the frequency and the understanding and the changing. So, changing of the mind. So,
Yep.
in your experience, what was the mindset shift?
Listen, the mindset shift is like that I can do it. Like really that I can
Mm,
figure it out. Like I really, and I think that there's a slide here. Like It's really not rocket science. I know that, and I even have a slide here. Like my understanding, my like underlying belief is that the financial industry does not want you to understand money. You get your financial reports. There's so many numbers that you got like a block. You would like put it into the pile to deal with it later because you're like, oh my gosh, all those numbers. And there's this terminology and you don't understand it. And once you have like a few basic terms under your belt, it's really simple. But the financial industry doesn't want you to know that because they get to charge really high fees if you don't know it. And there are fees that are coming and going, and they charge you on the way in, they charge you on the way out. And if you don't know what you're looking at, and they're like, yeah, we give you 5% interest. Isn't that amazing? And you're like, sure. And nobody's told you, but yeah, you're like, you have like another 20 years before you retire. And if you put the money in stocks, which look risky, but they're really not over the long term, then your money is going to be worth twice as much. So I have like six big reasons that people don't invest, like start investing, and why it's difficult and why they don't stay the course. Okay, so overwhelmed, the jargon, and you've got so many choices. You're like, I'll figure it out later. Like that's the paradox of choice and decision fatigue. You're like, I don't know, let me just think about it tomorrow, right? You believe that you need to make more money first. You don't have enough to get started. Your income's fluctuating. You might have a big expense coming up. You don't know who to trust, right? It's intimidating. It's a man's world. You don't want to make mistakes. We've talked about this. And maybe there's taxation issues. And that's especially for some of my people, like in Israel, we have taxes in Israel, taxes in America. Or if you're American and you're living in a different country and you have like different tax legislation, like it can be very confusing. You're like, I don't want to pay taxes. Let me just keep it small. Let me just hide it. All right, we have to like make tracks here. As I said, I think the financial industry like really wants to keep the wool over your eyes, but we don't need to do that. We can really take charge and create our own financial confidence. So here you go. Mindset reframe, as if you ordered it. Investing isn't rocket science. Like it really, really isn't. I really do believe it's simple. And if you figured out how to like click a link on Zoom to get here today, like you have enough intelligence that you can figure it out really. It's committing to learning something new for 5 to 10 minutes a day, and that's it. It's just the commitment. So you can ask yourself, do you want to have financial anxiety? Do you want to be overwhelmed? The American Psychological Association says like 75% of the American population has financial anxiety. Or would you rather learn about investing in bite-sized chunks and slowly but surely develop your financial confidence? All right. For those people who say I don't have enough to get started, right? Investing is how you make your money work for you. It compounds and grows in the background so you can also take care of your future self. We're sometimes so focused on our present self that we don't think about it, but like that day is going to come. And I love the quote that it's attributed to Ayn Rand, which is you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. Like the reality is, folks, that we're going to get to 80 and we're going to get to 90, most of us. And if we don't think about our future self, then he is going to be a little bit like short for cash. Small amounts add up over time, and like commit to starting. Even like, Kim asked for a formula, $1 a day. And you talked about your Christmas fund. I had my Passover fund. I had a shoebox. I used to put every week, like I took a 100 shekel note and I put it into my Passover box because for us, when we're celebrating Passover, it's a big expense. Or I put it for summer camp, but I like had a little shoebox with cash in it, and that's how I took care of it. And whether you use an envelope system or you have a bank account, like just another line entry at your bank where you're slowly but surely moving money over. I had a client, I talk about her in my book. She committed to $2 a day and she got to $5 a day. And I think by the time we stopped working together, she was committing, because she was an entrepreneur and her business was making at least a $500,000 when we stopped working, with each other, 500,000 a year. She was putting away $20 a day. Like, just think about that. That's $600 a month. That's like a lot of money, right? Like that will really give you a lot of, oomph to your investing, right? So don't abandon your future self. You've got to establish financial habits now while you're busy taking care of your present self. And it's a little bit of a time warp thing because you want to eat today, but you got to remember that you're going to want to eat tomorrow also. All right, big upcoming expenses. Okay, so this is not what your investing is for, unless you're like, putting money away when your kids are like 2 and 4 and you're saving for their college funds and wedding funds and things like that. But if you know that you need to replace your car like next year because your car is like 10 years old and it's like on the fritz, right? That's not what investing is for. That is what you need to use your cash management, your budgeting for. What we already talked about, those are regular expenses. Like if you buy a car, you know that at some point in the future you're going to need to replace that car. You buy a computer, you know that at some point in the future you're going to need to replace the computer. But we're always trying to like juggle it around and try and borrow from this account and that account, to make things work. But that's why putting money away for those fluctuating expenses or irregular expenses makes so much sense. All right. As I said, don't tap into your income for short-term stuff. You need your budgeting system or your money management system. And also in your business. Like your business is going to need future investing also. Like, you need your like annual Zoom account, but if you want to invest in a coach, if you want to do a website, websites are like $10,000 plus minus, right? So that's something that you want to put money aside for so you don't have to put it on a credit card, but you know that you're saving for it. All right, so let's just talk about your fear of losing money, making dumb mistakes, and like really with anything, we learn by making mistakes and we self-correct. Like any child, if you've got kids, watch them on a bicycle, watch them walking, right? They get up, they fall down, they skin their knees. But for some reason with money, we make such a huge deal about it. As I said, no money, no food, I'm gonna die. So you've got to like take action before you're ready. You just have to you learn by doing. My mistake, I don't suggest you make a big mistake that I did. I invested $75,000 and lost 50 of it. So that was a big ouch. Start small. I learned the hard way, the University of Hard Knocks. So don't do what I did. And don't do anything silly like I did with your money. If you can't afford to lose it, like thank God we were okay. As I said, I had a big chunk of change that we put away into an investment. And that was a painful mistake. And it took me a while to tell my husband, by the way, because I felt so bad about it. But don't do anything silly. And this happens. People like they get excited. Somebody comes and sells you something, the Jewish world, the chasna money, the wedding money, and people put their money and promise 13, 14, 15%, and then poof, it like disappears. If you don't understand it, if it's so complicated, if somebody's just like so eager about it, like that is a huge, huge, huge red flag that maybe there's a lot of information that you don't understand. All right. And this is, I love this quote by Brene Brown. She's a shame expert that shame cannot survive being spoken. It cannot survive empathy. And that's why I talk about my mistake, right? Like there was a time that like every time I talked about it, I felt this heat rising up in my chest. The shame, but now I just talk about it as it's like, okay, that's what happened. I made a mistake and I learned from it and I moved on. So if you made a mistake with your money, we learn from it, we're grown-ups, and you move on. So instead of focusing on building a winning investment portfolio from the get-go, because we're like so afraid of losing, right? We're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose anything and I have to have the best, best, best thing straight away. You really want to focus on your process, which is the consistent steps you're taking to become confident, to become successful. So that's like the $100 a month. Like you just put it aside, you learn what an ETF is, you go and you put some money into an ETF. You do it again the next month. You've opened up your account with like Vanguard or Schwab or Fidelity, and you do it again. I have a client and her mother passed away a couple of years ago, and we started working together financial planning, and she was really totally blocked. And we built her investment portfolio. And listen, she's never going to be a fish in water around her money and her investing, but the way she talks about money now and how much more confident she's become, it took her a year plus, but she's a different person and her portfolio is a different portfolio because she did it step by step by step. All right, here's the missing link, really, and we are getting close to the end, is the money is not just something that you do. We earn, we save, we spend, we invest, and it's not just something you have, like $1 million portfolio or an investment property. Money is how you live your life on purpose and in alignment with your values. right? Money is a tool. Money doesn't make you more of a person who you are. I mean, I think money amplifies who you are. If you're giving money a person and you're giving to charity and you're sharing and your resources and, things like that. We also know that people gamble with money and people squeeze people and whatever, like they do mean things with money. But, money is how you can use your money for a purposeful and meaningful life. So some of the values, this is like here, the values are really in the middle. So you've got your mindset, your future self. We have to remember your future self having systems and strategies like we talked about, your system for monthly, watching what your personal expenses are, your business expenses, putting money aside, making sure you're taking care of your present self today and your future self tomorrow. So this is like, but your values are really, that's the thing that is you want to start from your values. And now we're just going to look at a quick, bullet points of some values. Like you want your money for safety and security. You want your money maybe to take care of your family. You want your money to, do chesed, we say in Hebrew, charity, making a difference in the world. You want money to travel and have fun. And maybe that is connected with your family, right? You want your money for your health, take care of yourself, well-being, peace of mind, self-care. You need a massage, you need a vacation. But what are your values? What's important to you? And when I was working in financial planning, so many people came to me and they said, I don't want to be a burden on my children. And if that is a value for you, because that's part of your family, then figure out your money now so that your future self doesn't have to become a burden to your children. All right. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. Success comes from what you do consistently. And that's it. There you go. That was, I think we're even exactly 1 hour. Now, how is that for an amazing, amazing episode of the More Than Mindset podcast? But we can stay on. I've got time if we want to stay for more questions.
Thank you. So we are going to open up for Q&A. If you have, we do have a couple of questions in here. I think we covered most of them. I have a couple of questions for you to serve the audience. One of them is, what do you think red flags are? You mentioned one that I think is really important. Are there any other red flags that they could take note of to watch for? Because if they leave here excited and wanting to, what would be a rookie red flag?
If someone's like I remember when somebody was talking to me about a certain investment and 13% guaranteed, no risk. And I'm like, but there's got to be a risk. There has to be something. It can't be because there is a relationship between risk and return, right? The more risky it is, I mean, the higher the return, sorry, there's a risky element. So with stocks, again, over the long term, like the fluctuations even out. What's my Facebook handle? It's just do it on my personal I think it's debbie.sassen.5 is my personal Facebook. If you can do my business one. I just see it less because business accounts on Facebook are pretty dead. But you'll find me. I look like my profile picture. Um, so thank you. Thanks, Kim. Oh, and I think I even have them here. I wanted to have them ready, but I don't think so. I think this is just LinkedIn, whatever. Anyway, never mind. Um, but I think that like I went to an investing seminar here in Israel thank you, a couple of months ago, and the guy was talking about his real estate fund. And he was all hyped up and all enthusiastic. And actually, I really think that he's a good guy. Like I really, really do believe that he was, it was my former financial planning colleague who organized this meeting. But I asked him afterward, I said, tell me about key man risk, which is a term that you might not understand. Like he was developing this investment fund, and I just kept hearing, right? I kept hearing my friend here, my friend there, this guy goes skiing with this guy, this guy, this. And he's building this fund that's investing in, if I'm not mistaken, like 30 different real estate properties. And key man, like he is the key man. I'm like, and he's like, yeah, like it's all me. Like he had a team, but maybe like a marketing team or whatever, but all of the connections with these good deals in the real estate market. And he's been doing real estate for 20 years. And he started also on Wall Street, maybe like Merrill Lynch, if I remember correctly, maybe not. But like I do believe that he understands. And I think this is the thing is like you learn what you learn. Like he loves this kind of real estate. It wasn't real estate from the ground up, starting from like the dirt. It was already, properties that already existed. He knew what he was talking about, but all the risk was on him. If anything happened to him, but he said, listen, there's a huge insurance policy on his life. And I was like, okay, like, you know what? I just decided for me, for my where I am in my life and where what I need and what I don't need, I'm like, you know what? I'm keeping my money in the stock market because I understand that. I know what the risks are. If anything happens to me, because I understand our finances more than my husband just knows where the money is. He doesn't have to start going and collecting from this one and this one and this real estate fund and whatever. Like everything's very central. And that's another thing is that having too many different accounts and too spread out, and diversification is a real thing. But like one day you might not be here. I mean, one day we're all not going to be here. And you don't want the people who remain after you're here to have to like gather a bunch of things together because they're already going to be dealing with you're not being here. That's already going to be a big enough loss. So you just like, so I think it wasn't a red flag that I didn't believe that he knew what he was talking about. Like the other guy was like, no, no risk, 13%, no risk. I'm like, I know too much to know that that's not true. And he had a really good track record, that other guy with the 13%. And then at one part, his whole company went bankrupt. So, but this other guy, it could be, I just decided, you know what? I could get really good returns on my money, but I would have this like pinging thing in my head, what's going on with it, whatever. And for my peace of mind, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it. It's okay. I don't need that extra kicker to my investments. I don't have the time. I have like I told you guys, I've got a big family. I'd rather spend my time and my energy with my family and just buy less shoes. I'm not even wearing shoes, guys. Right now I'm barefoot.
So here's a question from I think it's Dina or Dinah. Do you need to
Dina.
pay someone to invest for you and pay them or store it, or can you do it yourself? And I think that's a great question for those. Like, can you talk about if they wanted to set up like a self-directed account, or what would you suggest the first
Uh,
three things if they are not an investor currently?
I really, really believe in DIYing it. That's like the whole premise of my book is you can do it yourself. Again, you need to understand what's an ETF, exchange traded fund or mutual fund, so you don't have to decide, do you want IBM or Apple this year? Do you want Amazon? Is that, Amazon's taken over the world anyway. You might like, ETF is exchange traded fund. So again, that word fund is like the salad. Anytime, like mutual fund, exchange traded fund. The difference is, if you want to get geeky, we do have those in Israel. Yes, Saul, we do have those in Israel. Keren ne'emanut or tu'udat sal. If you're a U.S. citizen, it's a problem. Don't do it because it's a tax nightmare. Um, so if you're not a US citizen, you're a UK citizen, Canadian citizen, whatever, then go ahead. But if you're a US citizen, do not invest in a fund in Israel because the tax treatment is terrible. So that's my warning to you. But you can go to like Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, like the discount brokerage houses, and you can, no, US investors can invest in Israel, but you have to invest in individual assets. Like you have to decide, like, do I want to invest in Apple? Do I want to invest in IBM? Do I want to invest in Bank Leumi? Like you have to choose specific investments. Like the fund is going to get you into tax trouble. This is interesting, Helen, that you said you lost $500,000 from investing in Amazon. You lost money because you sold because the market went down and you didn't hold on to it and like because again the markets fluctuate. If you I don't know when you bought it and I don't know when you sold it, but if you bought it, let's say, oh, it was optionized. Okay, options are a different story. That's how I ended up losing money is because the person I was investing with was doing leverage trades on the market. So yeah, okay, I get it. That's why don't invest in anything you don't understand. That's why, like, you need to understand. That's why I like basic, I like simple, I like plain vanilla, because I have a lot of other things in my life that I want to worry about. And but I do believe, like, really, really from the bottom of my heart, you can do this by yourself. Yeah. Like if you want to, if you want to be a day trader if you want to understand the markets, but I have like other things that I want to do with my life. Veronique has a question. I'm happy to answer it if you want to put it into, and somebody else has a question to put in the chat box. Go ahead. Can people like unmute themselves or to ask questions?
I can unmute or I can bring them up. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. What's our time? What's our time limit?
I'm open for the Q&A, so I left
Okay, we
time.
can stay like till half past and then and we'll call it a day.
Okay, so let's see. Do you guys want to put it in? Oh, here's the Q&A. I found it. Will paying someone that has more information than me and more experience make more money so it's worth paying them? That's a great question.
That's a beautiful question. And the research shows us that if you invest in the total US stock market, you will beat out 80% of the financial advisors. And the thing is, you don't know when you start investing with your financial advisor if he or she's going to be in the 20% or not. You will only know that after the fact.
Ooh, that's
So,
um,
Julia says, how do you evaluate new companies? I don't. I buy exchange traded funds. How to invest in gold? I don't. I invest in exchange traded funds.
there you go.
Like really, like
Love it.
I do what I know, and I don't get involved in things that I don't know. Like that's my golden rule. I said anything you don't understand, like when we had the financial crash in 2008, my brother told me that he was investing in gold. I was like, okay. I think gold really did go up. He was like following the markets and doing all this stuff and whatever. I'm like, great. I don't know if he bought, sold at the right time, but there was possibility that he made a lot of money. I have no idea how. I mean, there are ways that you can invest in ETFs that trade, like exchange traded funds that trade gold, but I don't.
I
I like
love
invest in what I invest.
I love that you keep it clean, which is exactly what I wanted this about. And as I move through this success series and finance series and really understanding the mark, that this is my intention for the year is to raise my financial IQ to really understand all of this better. And I love whenever someone stays in their lane. I highly respect that. And so
Thank
it's
you.
great questions, but I love the restraint and the discipline, which I think is a huge, huge trait for investing. This is when people start to lose confidence in themselves. It's because of going off rail instead of just staying focused and staying disciplined. Would you agree that financial literacy and financial gain and the stability that people are seeking is a lot to do with the discipline, the mindset and the discipline?
Yeah, that was exactly the slide that said like focus on your process. Like really, I mean, I'm not a marathon runner. I don't run my knees or I'm not going to do it, but the discipline to run a marathon, you don't just get out of bed one day, you're like, I'm going to run a marathon. It's like it's the discipline that today I get out of bed, put on my shoes, today I go for a walk for like 15 minutes. Then I like you just slowly build up like step by step by step. You run a 5K, you run a 10K, you like, and then you get to the marathon because it's the discipline. And that's why it's 90% mindset and just stay in your lane. Like, I'm not looking for the next best thing. I'm like, total US stock market, I can sleep at night.
Yes. Okay. I have some more questions here. Anyone who has to hop off, this lives on YouTube. I'm going to put the link below so that guy you can go back and grab and hear the Q&As and get your answers. I know some people were only limited to 1 hour. A couple of questions here, and one is your book available in it, like not on Amazon? Is there a way to buy your book on
You
Amazon?
can get it on Amazon. It will ship to
They don't
Israel.
want
I'm going to, huh?
Amazon. They asked the question, is there a
Oh, well,
way to buy your book
you know what?
not
Actually,
on
sometimes
Amazon?
it goes back and forth. That sometimes they do deliver it here and sometimes they don't. Having said that, just this morning, I ordered 10 books to ship to my dad's house in LA because I'm going to be in Los Angeles next month and I'm going to bring back 10 books. So I've got like 2 books on my shelf, but I will be in touch with me. I'm going to have a few books for sale in whatever
Okay, so I'm going to
July
ask.
when I get back.
Thank you.
So
I'm going to
Julie's
ask a
asking,
couple of
do I
more
have a golden
questions.
rule when to hold and when to sell? I don't sell. I just hold. I really don't believe in trying to time the markets because because that's where people like, oh my gosh, the markets are falling. I mean, I will say one thing to that. 5 years ago and a few months during Corona, right? In the beginning of 2020, the markets went south. They dropped. And my daughter and I were both talking with each other. We were just watching it go down. We're like, maybe we should buy some stocks. And God was on our side. I think we got the lowest day in the market that we put some money in. And then we were able to ride the wave back up again because it went down like 30% and just or 20% in a few months. But otherwise, like I don't try to sell if I need money, right? And that's the question. If you need money, then we're starting to talk about portfolios and balancing and when, but I do not try to time the market. Like I'm holding my money. Crazy thing, guys, is I can start getting Social Security in August. Little bit of a freaky thing. I'm not going to do it, but like I have other sources of money that through my business that I'm working, my husband's still working, and then pension money that's going to come to us. If I don't need it, it's just going to ride until like I'm 80 years old and I need it for my health care. So,
which is another topic of multiple sources of income, like the streams of income. There's so many topics that we can talk about and bring into with this whole financial and money and really understanding. And from the questions, you can see the fear, especially in women, the fear
yeah,
around the money, the lack of confidence. And I think the more conversations we have about this and we start understanding the terms, what does that mean? How do I do it? Where do I start? Is where we're going to get the confidence from. That's how we're going to become confident. But the
yes,
something you just said was really important. When I need the money, but the way that you set up the foundation is the difference between the savings and the investing. Like, so you don't get in that position. This money was meant to be long term, to be held somewhere that's going to give you that. And I think
yeah,
that's some of the mindset stuff, which is why I'm so passionate about continuing the conversations about wealth creation. We can work and earn money, but our money can make money. That is a
yeah,
multiple source of income. It's
yeah,
another way that we can scale ourselves, because you only have so much time and energy in the physical form with your
exactly.
money. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I love these questions. Someone said, how do you invest in total stock market? That's in the Q&A.
So I'll give you, there's a thing called a ticker. This is the symbol that represents the stock. So iShares is a company and I buy it through my Fidelity account, ITOT. Like that's the exchange traded fund that I buy. It's a no fee fund in Fidelity. Vanguard has the same one, VTI, which is also the Vanguard total, stock market fund. And then Schwab has theirs, which is SC something or other, SCH something. I don't know, but you can just Google total US stock market fund, Fidelity, Schwab, whatever, and they will have their fund. So it's
Barbara,
it's
did you?
really just a matter of asking that question.
Okay. Barbara, did you have your hand was up. Did you have a question or did you get it answered? And then I'm looking, I see Dinah and Veronique. Did you
And
guys?
and Rachel Geller, I'm surprised that you couldn't get the book in the UK because Ingram Spark, who prints it, does have a printing press in the UK. So I'm actually surprised you couldn't get it. Anyway, but if you got a secondhand copy, then that's good enough. Save the world. Don't print another book.
Is there a way? Okay. Did we get, just repeat your question if we didn't get to it in the chat. I prefer to support the author. Rachel, you have been a what's the word I want to say? Like, I appreciate your comments. You've been a great commentary throughout the whole entire process. You've been an engaged audience. Very much appreciated. Um, to have a golden rule, you already answered that one. All right. Anything else? We still got about 70% of the group on. Barbara, did you want to come up? Is that, I see your hand is up. I'm gonna go ahead and bring her up. Just so you guys know, there's a replay. So know you're going to be on camera in the replay.
Make sure your mascara's on.
Go ahead, Barbara. You have permission.
Great.
Hi.
Wonderful.
Hello,
Okay.
Barbara.
I did, I got part of my question answered. My question was back when I was wondering, how do we, how do we do in terms, in a comparison to investors? And you were saying if you do it yourself, you can generally best 80% of the professional investors. And then my second part of that was because I have everything in Schwab, I was trying to catch what was the total U.S. investment fund, or how does that work? The
I
ETF,
can we can
Schwab,
we can just Google it because you can just put Schwab total U.S. stock market ETF, and
total
if
stock
from
market.
Schwab it has four letters. I don't remember what those four letters are. Probably SCH for Schwab, but but you can just ask Google or Chat GPT total US stock market ETF Schwab, and it will give you. And you can also, if you have your money in Schwab, do you ever speak with them? Like, do you have anybody you
Yeah.
speak with? You could just ask the customer service representative there.
Okay, good. Because this answers a total question for me. They've been trying to switch me to a professional investor who will then check with me with every single thing they sell. And I'm thinking, no, no, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do that. I've done it myself all of these years. I want to keep doing it. And so, yeah, I have a person I've worked with for many years, and I can ask him. He's very helpful because what I would like to do is I because I was volunteering and doing a lot, I was given a volunteer award, which I was totally unexpected. So I want to take that and put it just for fun. It's $1,500, but put it in this account, start adding the 100, do it as if I'm 20. I'm
Amazing.
85.
Wow,
Amazing.
that's
I
great. I
love
think
it. I love investing and it's just fun. So I'll start it and see, maybe I'll live another 15 years. How far can I take it in 15 years? It would just be
Okay, that
fun.
sounds good to me. I think that's amazing. You go for it. Yeah, God willing, another 20 years, 30 years, and you'll
Well,
use it.
this gives me the program to do, which I was trying to think, what will I do? What can I put it? How can I track it? This is it. This is perfect. I thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so
thank you for
welcome.
coming on, Barbara. Wait, can I ask you a question? How was it for you to get started? Like if for these, because I mean, how inspiring for those who haven't started yet, and having your testimonial of like how you're loving it. Did you always love it? Were you afraid of it before you knew about it? Like, was
I
there
was
some?
totally fearful. And not only that, I made some really bad mistakes. Not as bad as 50,000, but still for me it was a very bad mistake, two or three of them. But I started reading. In fact, here's one thing I did. I bought one share of Buffett, the Plan B. It was, I don't know, 4,000 at the time or something. I saved and saved and saved because I wanted the newsletter. So
Oh,
I read that newsletter all the time. I read everything that he or Charlie Munger suggested. I just started reading and reading. Barbara Stanley at the time was a huge part of it. I went to one of her workshops and read, Prince Charming Isn't Coming and worked through her books. I have always been an under earner. I have never become a high earner. That just didn't, I don't know. I did what I loved. I had enough. Anything extra, I developed a freedom journal. Mary Hunt, I think was the name. She did the Cheapskate newsletter.
Oh my
I
gosh, I remember that. I remember that.
read all of her stuff and I started that freedom journal. And that got me really solid with money in the sense that when irregular expenses came, like the insurances and the various things like that, I could just write a check and smile and send it off.
Yeah.
So, and that was difficult to get going, but I finally got it going. And when I did, it was a major step. And then I read all of Susie Orman and another thing called A Girl Needs Cash. I don't remember the author, but it was a terrific book. And I just kept reading and reading, and almost all books written by women. Warren Buffett, definitely, a couple of others, but mostly women because I resonated better to them.
Nice.
And it's still fun. And I think I told you this, Debbie, in an email. I didn't understand bonds. So I put everything in stocks. And during that 20 years, it went from the money that I had, I don't remember what it was at the start of that huge climb, but I ended up with just short of 2 million. And I
Incredible.
was shocked. I couldn't even read the numbers. That has never, I have trouble even reading big numbers.
Yeah.
Give it up for Barbara. Come on, guys. Light up the chats. What an incredible
So
role
good.
model testament. Like
Yeah.
you, oh, it's amazing. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
And
Oh,
I
thank
just
you
want to
for
say, like
letting
Barbara,
me.
you said, like I really have to go back and highlight and really underscore what Kim said. But that like little picture that I had with all the arrows and the values were in the middle. And you said, I did what I loved.
Yeah,
And you still ended up with $2 million in your investment account doing what you love. Like,
yeah.
that's
What
fantastic.
she knew, what she said is, she left what she didn't understand. That's
Yeah.
what
That's where I
I
made
heard.
my mistakes when I invested or sold what I
Yeah.
didn't understand.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
That
definitely,
that was huge when I didn't understand it. I left it alone and I did what I knew. This
Yeah.
sums up everything that you said, Debbie. It puts it in perspective. Both of you are saying you learn from your mistakes. I've lost too. I get it. I think maybe if we just rip the band-aid off, just do it small. Maybe
Mhm.
Debbie and I are a little more extreme. Maybe just do it small, so that it could be a teeny tiny band-aid that you pull off. But this was a great
let me make
testimony
another
of
comment if I may too,
sure.
because it has resonates with starting small. And I did things like any unexpected money I did not spend. It went into investments.
I love
I
it.
was going up the stairway in the subway in New York City, and I watched what I thought was a dollar bill. Everybody passed it. I picked it up and it was $90. So
Wow.
I added 10 and I invested it. Then ATMs were new and they weren't as good as they are now. I tried to get $20 and they gave me 80. So I added 20 and I invested it. And just doing stuff like that constantly, it, it just constantly kept my mind going that direction. That was the purpose of it. Not that I had
Amazing.
to be
Amazing. Amazing.
whatever.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And what you're referring to is like that lifestyle inflation thing. Like you didn't do it. You just like any extra, you kept investing. So
Yeah.
I salute you. Hats off to you for that. And just before we wrap up, I do want to, Michelle put something into the chat about the the Fidelity total US stock market. I just want to point out to Michelle the difference between like the FS whatever it was, that is a mutual fund. That is not an ETF. Okay, so I know it gets a little bit geeky, but the ITOT again is iShares, and it's an exchange traded fund with no fees at Fidelity. There's a slight difference in terms of a mutual fund and an ETF. It gets into the weeds. I think I talk about it in my book, but an ETF trades all day long like a stock. A mutual fund has one price, a market clearing price at the end of the day. But basically, both of them mimic the entire market. As a dual citizen, US Israeli citizen living outside of the United States, I cannot invest in mutual funds. That's legal stuff. Um, Mutual funds I can't invest in, so I invest in ETFs. But they're basically, for all intents and purposes, they're the same thing. But that's where it gets geeky, and that's where you can be like, Go to ChatGPT and say, I don't know, what's the difference between this stuff?
Yeah.
Barbara, I'm going to put you back in attendee. I thank you for asking the question, for sharing. What an inspiration. I
Oh,
really
thank you for
appreciate
letting me go with it.
So good.
it's yeah, it's amazing. I mean, that it's I mean, how long ago was it when you did that? You said 20 years is when you started?
Oh, no, longer than that. 40.
That's so impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that long before that that women couldn't even have checking accounts
I
and
think I
vote.
was
And
44 when I started.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
thank you. Appreciate you. All right, Debbie, we're down to just a couple of comments. It's important to invest money and for yourself or to pass it on. If you only take out the money at 80, you don't have much time. I would love for us to do a whole just mindset segment, like on like, you know, and I really love the sharing of others and like how one thing turned to something and then how mistakes turned into wisdom. That has been incredible, impactful for me. Debbie, I thank you for your wisdom, for your book. Oh, guys, I put it in the chat. Go ahead and grab it. Those who are watching or listening on YouTube, all of Debbie's links will be there. The book link will be there, how to get in touch with her, how to follow up. Debbie, how do you want to wrap it up? You got 2 minutes before your half-hour extension that you gave us.
You know what? Jump in and get started. Like really that because we only learn things like you can't learn to swim sitting in a lounge chair with a margarita at the side of a pool. So we can talk and get all enthusiastic and Barbara's story can light up our lives and be like, wow, she did it. But if you don't take the next step, like I like to say, the half-life of inspiration is very short. So like make a move, do something, and start your investing journey because you need time. Investing needs time.
Thank you all for participating, for coming, for engaging, staying, sharing on social. We did get a few tags, and
Nice.
we'll hope to see you around again. You guys are on the email list. Keep in touch, follow, find, and find your courage. Find your
Amazing.
courage to get started. Putting that $10, if it's just $10 aside, or $100. All right.